Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Monday, March 7th, 2022. I almost said February again. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Tonight I'll be sharing anyway, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, to find all the episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and other ways to contact me, you can visit the podcast page, which is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. And that's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or you have stories of experiences to share, whether they're your own experiences or others that you trust. Always happy to read or hear those, whether you want to send those in as text that I can then read on the show, or if you want to join me on the show, and you can share those stories there, and we can have a discussion about them. Either way is fine. Haven't gotten any submissions in a little while, so just always happy to hear from everyone. But this week, the plan is tonight, as I said, true paranormal stories from the web. Tomorrow and Wednesday will be true ghost stories from the web. Thursday will be the book review. I'll be getting into more of that H.P. Lovecraft, the complete fiction. And probably just focus on that day. I'd like to keep getting through that book and eventually finish it at some point. It's 47 plus hours long, so it's going to take a while. But and then Friday, I'll be starting either a 2 or 3 episode series on haunted mountains and mountain ranges. That will be that will take place on the next couple of Fridays. And this Friday, at least for sure, as far as I know, Jen H will be joining me again, and to cover this topic. I will start with the plan is to start with the west coast, or the west part of the U.S., and then maybe next week get to the eastern section. And then I do have a couple of other articles about mountains and paranormal activity that surrounds them all over the world as well. So that's why it may be a 3-part thing. We'll see. And then, of course, more to come after that. So I believe that covers it for this week. And yes, that's a possibility. Apoc says, has put a meme in the chat, or a picture. The mountains are calling. And that's a interesting idea, and it could be true. In one way or another, it could be true. So, let me switch over to the Word file here, and I will begin. Just gotta invert the colors, because otherwise I won't be reading much. Okay. So I found most of these today. Had a couple left over from last Monday. And we'll see how many we can get through today. So this one says, this is the second time it has ever happened to me. And I want to ask if anyone has had a similar experience or know what this is called. I'll try to explain it while it's still fresh in my mind. Apologies if it's a bit incoherent. It says, I came home after work like I usually do at noon, took off my shoes and jacket, pulled out my tablet and lay down on my small sofa in my room. This is my usual routine after I arrive home. While catching up on updates, news, video, notifications, I don't know when it started, but I started hearing talking around me. Not like creepy sounds or whisper around my ears, but more like a cafeteria back in high school when everyone is talking around, but you can't make out what is being said. While this is happening, I'm staring down at my tablet, not looking up, while I hear people chattering around me. And then it hit me. I felt a sensation of this is wrong. I'm in my room. As soon as I made that realization and tried I tried picking up and understanding what was being said around me, suddenly I heard my door close shut. It startled me and made me snap out of this weird trance. I've had similar experience years before, but no longer remember the details. It's like when you notice it happen, it just stops. Anyone else had a similar experience? And that's where that story ends. That is really interesting. Essentially, they point out that it's not like a stereotypical ghost trying to scare them. Doesn't even necessarily, based on the description, doesn't even sound like maybe whoever the writer was hearing doesn't even sound like they were talking to this person. So, and it's interesting. I wonder if they mentioned a door. I wonder if there was a door that was open that closed. They didn't really say. But if there was that in addition to the voices, that's even more interesting. But I guess in a way, it'd also be just as interesting if there was no other door, or there was no door that closed. It was just the sound of it. Either way, I guess is different enough where you wonder what's going on there. So I included that one because at first glance you might think maybe haunted house kind of thing, but I don't know. Maybe not necessarily. I'm wondering what kind of building they were in. If they were in a house, or maybe what was there before that building that they were in, their home. Their home was like a house or an apartment building, or what the details were of that area that this happened in. If there was something like a cafeteria, or at least a kind of, I guess, like a banquet room or a hall, maybe. Banquet hall. So, lots of questions there. That's for sure. So, I guess I'll move on to the next story. Thank you all for being here. As I always say, whether it's for the live stream or whether you listen on the podcast feed or the YouTube videos, I appreciate all of it. So, this next story says, a couple of weeks ago, I was with my friend having a sleepover. And it says they're both teenagers. And we were just relaxing, talking, and watching videos online at his house. Let me quickly fill you in. That was hard to say. On his house. It's a 2-story house, and his room is on the second floor, with a big window facing out towards a little dirt track. And after that, as far as the eye can see, it's just fields. This may not be useful to much people, but for any fellow Melbournians, this house is right on the edge of the subdivision. I'm not going to say the city name. I'm guessing Melbourne, maybe Australia. I don't know for sure. It says, anyway, it's 2 a.m. and we're still talking when I hear some crashing in the fields. And we had the window open for some air, and I heard more loud rustling when I then saw two short figures emerging from the field and onto the gravel track. They were probably around 4'5" and were wearing brown and purple robes. They had bald heads and large black eyes. They craned their heads up to our window, and my friend started having a huge panic attack. He passed out. I then looked down to see them start dancing and chanting in strange, melancholic voice. It's fair to say I passed out as well out of straight fear. The next morning, his mom found us on the floor and asked us what happened. And we told her everything. But she doesn't believe us. I'm pretty sure these are some cryptids performing a ritual, but I would love to hear other people's thoughts. And that's the end of that one. And that is a wild story there. I wonder if it was fear exactly that made them pass out. Or something else. But the description of these little things is just odd. Hello, Eyes Open. Thank you for joining. So, yeah, these little 4.5 foot. I say little, which is funny because I'm 5'2". But these shorter, bald, robed figures with black eyes. Two of them. Makes me wonder because the writer said there was sounds of crashes and rustling in the fields before they came out into the gravel road. Seems like, I don't know, it's really odd. And then doing some kind of a ritual or chanting after. That's why I kind of wonder if there wasn't more to them passing out than just fear. But then again, I guess people do fall asleep when they see or hear strange things sometimes. I know I did before a couple times, so that does happen. It's one of those things that doesn't make any sense, but sometimes if you can't get away from whatever you're hearing or seeing, you just close your eyes and ears to it. Somehow it's like, I don't know if it's like a defense mechanism or what, but it happens. So, quite the odd story there. But, well, I'll go on to the next story here. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. All right. So, let's see here. Okay, there it is. This one says, this happened a couple of years back. I don't know if this is actually something paranormal, but I'd appreciate it if someone would confirm or debunk this for me. I live with my parents because I'm a teenager, and around a couple of years ago, we started to hear some movement and tapping noises in the walls. Of course, we assumed it was rats or other rodents. We lived with it for a month or two, hoping they would go away, but they didn't, and we called pest control. The pest control people examined our house and walls very thoroughly and were confused because they didn't find any signs of any rodents ever living anywhere in our house, including the inside of our walls. And it couldn't have been bugs or something. The noises were absolutely too loud to be bugs. After the pest control visit, the noises kind of stopped. They happened only from time to time, whereas before they would happen multiple times a day. It doesn't really happen anymore. We couldn't have been making the noises up. We all heard them. We all heard the same noise at the same time and same place on multiple occasions. This situation has been sitting in the back of my mind and bugging me since it happened. Can anyone explain this? And that's where that story ends. I do think it's interesting that the pest control was called and didn't find anything. Yeah, as Open says, typical haunting sounds. Could be, yeah. It's just, I like that there was confirmation that it wasn't anything related to just regular animals. So unless that team was just completely incompetent, but then it does seem like eventually the sound stopped, which is good. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I still get bumps and bangs around here, but they're always from inside the apartment. Once in a while, I'll hear them, and I had a couple last night. But then again, last night I was listening to a couple of. I found a new, or not new. I found a paranormal. Well, no, I found a free TV app on my console, game console, and it had a bunch of a free streaming TV app, and it had a bunch of paranormal stuff on there. So I had that playing all night. So could have attracted something, maybe, possibly with that. But so yeah, knocking and bumping sounds, they do happen. I haven't had anything that's that bad though. Not so far. Not here. So very interesting. But that is a common thing. Yeah. So, all right, I'll go on to the next one here, and should be able to get through at least a couple more of these today. All right, let me find my spot. Okay. This one says, I woke up last night at 3:33 a.m. and I needed to go grab a drink from my kitchen. I was skeptical about getting up because all the weird stuff happens at 3 a.m. But I was thirsty, so I said, heck with it, and went to get a drink. I was gone from my bedroom to my kitchen for maybe 45 seconds at the most. I came back to bed, and the time was 4:45 a.m. I just lay there so confused as to what on earth just happened. My girlfriend suggested I just wasn't awake all the way and didn't realize it was around 4:45 a.m. But I know for a fact it was 3:33 a.m. because I woke up thirsty, debating if I should go grab a drink because of spooky stuff happening at 3. Has anyone experienced anything like this before? And I'm guessing they haven't heard a lot about missing time, which is pretty scary. Um, but it's really interesting. Nothing else happened. They didn't see or hear anything else. But I wonder if their girlfriend was there. The writer's girlfriend was there, and wonder what she would have seen if she'd been awake during the time. But that's an hour. That's a good amount of time to go by. I'm wondering though. See, I don't know if it was an alarm clock. See, I don't know that alarm clocks, if they messed up, if the power flickered or whatever, I don't think they go to 333. So don't know what to make of that one, except like I said, seems like a missing time or some kind of a time anomaly going on there. So, like I said, I just wonder if their girlfriend was there. Did they? Apparently, I guess they didn't experience anything. So, but that's a common thing, and more so I think in UFO stories, but still, it does happen. So, but anyway, let's see here. Guess I'll go on to the next story, and go from there. I'm still kind of getting used to these two screens, but I've gotten a lot better. The only thing I've been doing tonight is I've been clicking on the browser or icon in the taskbar because I'm thinking of the way I used to do, where I had to click on one from one to the other, and so I've been closing it every time I wanted to go to it, and then realizing, oh wait, I didn't need to do that. So, still getting used to things, but it's definitely nice to not have to do that, to change manually. So, anyway, this one says, I saw a big black wolf with glowing red eyes in the middle of the afternoon when I was younger. I was outside of my grandmother's house playing. I ran around to the front yard, and on the right side of the house was this creature. It just stood there and didn't move at all. Being young, it terrified me, and I ran away. Curiosity was also a major factor, so about 15 seconds after I ran away, I went back to where I saw it, and it was gone. My grandma had a fenced-in backyard, and where it was standing, I would have seen it leave the property. This wasn't in a rural area either. This was a suburb in Connecticut. A very big and busy town, right near the town green. I've searched the internet for years for what this might have been, but I have never found anyone having a similar experience. I've read tales of similar creatures in dreams or whatnot, but never one of them out in a suburb in the middle of the day or afternoon on a sunny day. Also, it might be important to add that my grandmother did. Oh, okay. It says witchcraft or black magic. I don't know if there's even a. They don't know if there's even a difference. And that says There was another time my younger brother and I were inside my grandmother's house, and we were walking up the stairs. Keep in mind, this is a very old house with a chapel in it, with the stained glass window and everything. Three-quarters of the way up the stairs, we saw this literal Grim Reaper walk from the right side and stop at the top of the stairs and stare at us. We both stopped and looked at each other at exactly the same time, so I know it wasn't our imagination. It then walked into a bedroom on the left. We ran down those stairs faster than you'd think possible. I don't know if these two encounters could be related in some way. If anyone has any information on what these things could have been or what it meant, please tell me. I'm 25 now and have been wondering for years what these creatures were. And this isn't one of those made up creepypastas to scare people. This is real. So, that's quite a pair of experiences. Yeah. Yeah, Eyes Open has it right. There's a difference for sure between the witchcraft and the black magic. Yeah, that's why I hadn't noticed that part when I first found the story before. So, but that's why I was caught me off guard a little bit there. But yeah. So, but that's two figures. I don't know. That'd be. I don't blame them for being frightened, especially as kids. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, they saw things, but nothing else happened to them. So I'm guessing, and I'm hoping, it wasn't anything bad, but they were just open to seeing things at the time. And maybe there was more energy there due to whatever. So, yeah, Eyes Open says walking any kind of magical path can open doors to other realms, even if you know how to protect yourself. Yeah, so it could be that there was some of that going on, but very interesting. It's not your typical plain ghost story. There, that's like I said. At least they weren't chased or anything like that, which is good. So could have just been two entities passing through. So let's check here on this. Okay. And then see where we're at in this document. Okay. I will read one more here, and then we'll be calling it a night. This one says, so I'm stumped on what has been happening. Yesterday, my son called me from school to tell me that the door to his truck flew open and damaged the truck beside it. I have pictures of the damage. Well, he went into school today, and the owner of the truck told him that she noticed the damage on her truck and closed the door for him so his battery wouldn't die. But about an hour later, the resource officer called him down to the office because his door was open again and sitting against her truck. The resource officers watched the security cameras, and no one was around the truck when the door opened, either time. It just flew open. On its own. Tell me that the resource officer called him down again because his headlights were on. Again, he watched the tapes, and they just came on with no one in or around the truck. The door was locked. My son and I are freaking out, rightfully so, I guess. A little backstory to the school. It is built over a Native American burial ground, and there are still mounds nearby. So is his truck possessed? Sorry for the long story. And that is that's amazing that they caught it on camera like that. That's quite the story. I mean, if it's made up, that's quite the story. But I mean, that's always interesting when footage is confirms that there's no one there. So I don't even know how to describe that one. Oh yeah, okay, interesting. As Open says, if it had just been the headlights, you could write it off as faulty electrical wiring. But the door opening is wild. Yeah. APOC, good question. If a vampire can't be seen in the mirror, can you catch one on video? That I don't know. So yeah, that's crazy. That's multiple people seeing footage of something happening that they can't explain. So really odd there. But let me check on these last two stories, see how long they are. If they're not too long, I can get through them. But it's just yeah, no, I better not. Okay, so unfortunately I do have to stop for today. But there were some interesting stories there for sure. And we'll do this again next Monday. More of these kind of stories. So, but yeah, there were some interesting ones there. I'm glad that these are still being posted here and there online, and that they're available. So, but thank you all for being here. Tomorrow night, again, like I said, will be true ghost stories from the web, and then also Wednesday night. So, till tomorrow night, thank you all again. Take care, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal.